Well, now we know why authorities covered up the manifesto left by the Nashville transgender mass murderer. It turns out the manifesto, which leaked online to Steven Crowder, given to him, frankly, it was filled with anti-white hatred, and it was a plan to kill white Christian people. That's why you haven't heard about this, of course. This is the opposite of what the Biden administration and Hillary Clinton say is the greatest threat to America. Remember, the greatest threat to America is MAGA extremism, white supremacy. This is what's causing America's great decline.
And there's something dangerous happening in America now. There's an extremist movement that does not share the basic beliefs in our democracy. The MAGA movement. Not every Republican, not even a majority of Republicans adhere to the MAGA extremist ideology. I know because I've been able to work with Republicans my whole career. But there's no question that today's Republican Party is driven and intimidated by MAGA Republican extremists. This MAGA threat is a threat to the brick and mortar of our democratic institutions.
Yeah. Here's Hillary Clinton saying these white supremacist MAGA extremists get their marching orders from one person. There's one leader.
And sadly, so many of those extremists, those MAGA extremists, take their marching orders from Donald Trump.
Yeah. And I love Christiane Amanpour. She puts out her hand during that interview. She's like, yes, I'm glad you said that. Yes. But and then she says, well, how do they stop that? How do they stop listening to him? That's
this is the same interview where she says they need to be reprogrammed.
Yeah. They need to be deprogrammed. That they've been programmed by Donald Trump, and these MAGA extremists need to be deprogrammed. That way we can get, we need to teach them like liberal values, I guess, right?
If we could
liberal
just
values.
plug them into the matrix.
They need to be deprogrammed. Peyton Gendron wrote a manifesto and was on the FBI's radar months before he shot up a Buffalo supermarket. There he is. In the manifesto, he talked about replacement theory, anti-Semitism, and praised previous mass shooters who he really wanted to emulate these guys. How do we know this? Well, because the authorities released his manifesto almost immediately after the shooting. See? MAGA extremism. There's your proof. They wanted to show us immediately what caused all of this.
Oh, they went wall-to-wall coverage of this and had people crying about racist ideology against people with the dark skin.
Here, you can read it right here. We've got his manifesto. But when a transgender girl hopped up on testosterone shoots up a white Christian school, we hide Audrey Hale's manifesto and celebrate her life. In the days after the shooting, mainstream media was falling over backwards to apologize for misgendering Audrey Hale. Remember CNN misgendering her? And then the New York Times misgendering her, labeling her a he? The killer. They were so upset about this, and social media was filled with posts about how we need to be sensitive to trans people because a trans killer just shot up a Christian school and killed 6 people, including 3 children. Even protesters went to the Capitol in Tennessee and held up 7 fingers to honor the shooter as one of the victims. Listen to the crowd and listen to the guy at the very end say, yeah, I think there were 7 victims here. There were 7 victims here. Listen.
Every death is a tragedy, y'all. It's 7 lives.
I'd say there were 7 victims.
I'd say there were 7 victims, he says. I'd say there were 7 victims here. So how do we get this manifesto, or at least a piece of it? Well, a Tennessee police detective leaked the manifesto to Steven Crowder, and who then did a whole show about it. That's how we know about it. 3 pages. Where he said this is a warning to other white Christians out there. Watch.
Hey, this is the byproduct of the kind of ideology in which all of our children in public schools are being steeped. It can actually help people moving forward, avoid shootings like this.
Avoid shootings like this. So it's a call to, it's a wake-up call. It's a rallying cry. You can read the pages. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, didn't Jim Jordan have a congressional hearing or something where they were questioning the FBI putting informants in Catholic churches?
Mm-hmm. Oh, of course. And also school board meetings. So that's where the FBI has been focused. But when the Buffalo shooter had months and was on their radar, or Audrey Hale perhaps was on the radar, now we learn from this manifesto, in fact, she writes about, she could have been caught, she talks about. She could have been caught days ago, weeks ago. Oh, why? Why could you have been caught? Were you, we don't know the answer to this because we don't have the full manifesto. Were you on somebody's radar that could have led to your arrest? Could have been a red flag warning. By the way, in New York, they have a red flag law, right? So if there is someone with a red flag, like the Buffalo shooter, they could have swooped in and done something about it. But no.
Well, and Candace Owens has even more information she's going to be releasing because she got in contact with somebody. So she's going to be doing another huge dump from this.
Yeah, good. Because, yeah, we only have 3 pages so far. And they vilified, apparently, this detective who managed to leak this information to Steven Crowder. That's the only reason we know about it. Called him a viper. They did, like, for releasing this information and saying you're exploiting the families. Oh, really? Exploiting the families for withholding this information that we should have all been made aware of? The families, perhaps, should have been made aware of this information? So you can read the pages of the manifesto as I have. It is horrifying. But if you post any of the pages on social media, like the printouts of it, Facebook, YouTube, and Reddit will take down your posts and close down. I've seen some accounts actually being closed as a result of it. So if you even show the images of the pages of the manifesto, they'll take it down. So you can't do that.
Well, to be fair, the Buffalo Shooter manifesto was taken down as well. You can still find it. But
it was suppressed in the first few hours. Yes. And Glenn Greenwald then posted, and then it became, I don't know what, like, unfolded that allowed it to be on there. But you know, Twitter, I guess, is fine, or X or whatever it is. But if you post any of the pages of it, they'll block it. So Facebook will take it down immediately. So if you want to, though, now post the manifesto from the Buffalo Shooter, you can go right ahead. No problem there. So instead of getting the rest of the manifesto out there, which apparently also includes a video that Audrey Hale recorded right before the shooting, what does she say in this video? Why won't you let us see it? Be interesting, right? We learned from the Columbine shootings and the videos that they recorded. We got to see those videos. Instead of getting that information, they're now blaming Steven Crowder. That's the argument here. And conservative media, of course, they're going after conservative media, but particularly Steven Crowder, turning the story around away from the shooting and away from the anti-white, anti-Christian manifesto. So it's now about Steven Crowder. It's about conservative media, right? But I'd argue both sides are actually missing the real story here. Sure, it was anti-white, it was anti-Christian, but that at the heart of this story is the fact that this mass murder was hopped up on mind-altering gender hormones that we know cause violence, suicide, and other horrible side effects. Steven Crowder is right to warn Christians that these kinds of attacks should be guarded against. Hell, the media right now is totally silent on Christians that have been killed in the Israeli bombings in Gaza. That's it. It's thousands. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I think we should clarify it may cause, does not cause, may cause. Like it's a possible side effect.
Yes. Yes, it's a possible side effect according to medical doctors.
Well, it's a known side effect.
It's a known side effect, and I think that's what I said. We know it's a side effect. Yes, that is according to medical research that is available on the National Institutes of Health website. So that's not me saying that. That's peer-reviewed medical research. Anyway, so the media is totally silent on the Christians that have been killed in the Israeli bombings in Gaza. It's like thousands of Christians that live in Gaza don't exist at all, and many have been killed. Silence there, so Crowder is right to call and raise these alarm bells about it. But the mind-altering gender hormones could very well be the reason for this psychotic mass murder. We went into great detail yesterday here on the show about how every mass shooting in the United States has one thing in common. What is that one thing that they all have in common? SSRIs, also known as antidepressants, as we detailed last night. All of them. And according to peer-reviewed studies, which I just mentioned, which you can read on the National Institutes of Health website, they have found, the National Institutes of Health published this, not me. I didn't do it. They have found higher rates of violent behavior or even homicidal behavior after the injections of testosterone. That, again, is according to the National Institutes of Health, not Clayton Morris. Disclaimer can be read below. You can read it right here on your screen. Again, this isn't me saying this. This is published research. And I'm sure they would love nothing more than to turn this story around to focus on, Steven Crowder, rather than acknowledge the trans mass shooter was using mind-altering drugs. and has something in common with every other mass shooter in the country, all using mind-altering drugs. Let's continue to ignore this, by the way, at our own peril. And by the way, side note, we don't yet know about the Buffalo shooter. Authorities were quick to release his racist manifesto, of course. But what's interesting is that authorities haven't released his mental health records. We know that he was evaluated for mental problems shortly before the attack, according to the New York Times. And he may have been prescribed psychiatric medications. So why hide that part of the story? Where does this deliberate refusal to release the mental health history, including all prescribed psychiatric medications, come from? Like, who's pulling the strings on that? Let me know in the comments below your thoughts.
Well, because he's a useful artifact in order to make people of different races feel afraid.
Yeah. I mean,
disenfranchised and vote for then your party who says you speak for them when you don't.
I have a prediction. Can I say my prediction here? I have a prediction, because it hasn't happened yet, or maybe with the Buffalo shooter was an example of this, that all future mass shootings in the United States, we're going to see now a suppression of health records, because Big Pharma is starting to get nervous that we're onto them. And we're doing stories about this, and they are going to start suppressing these health records. Mark my words. You're going to start to see, like, why can't we find out? Like, was he on something? Oh, they're not going to release that information. They're not going to release that information.
They also suppress the fact that, like, if you look at several, like Aurora and these other places, the FBI had contact with almost every one of these people before they did the act.
Yeah, exactly. All on radar, right? This is, I mean, this was part of the manifesto that came out, right? Is that, so if she was on the radar of the FBI well ahead of time, this is just yet another example of being on the radar for a lot of these mass shootings. They were on the radar. Yeah, we in fact met with her. We met with him, the Buffalo shooter. We knew that this guy was like threatening all sorts of weird stuff ahead of time. But yeah, we just had to wait till it happened, I guess. So let me know your thoughts on this in the comments below. Are we going to see the suppression of more of these health records? Maybe not. Maybe we'll get lucky and this will be something that we'll be able to see after these people commit these heinous acts. But I have a feeling we're going to start to get that covered up from now on. Thank you so much for watching this segment here at Redacted. We are live every day at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, trying to share the stories that the mainstream media will not cover. You should also come over and join our community of Redacted Rebels over at redacted.inc. That's our private locals community where we can share exclusive content that we simply cannot share here on YouTube. Come over and join the rebellion together right now by going to redacted.inc. We'll see you next time.